Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I wanted to keep it simple. It is a replay of mine going for Elite Specialist, and I wanted to really showcase what the Specialist can do in the current meta, where Hounds are very popular, and you can kind of use that to your advantage if you like to play Elite Spec. Now, my opponent here is a strong 201 player who starts with Amplify Specialist and Ball Hound. Very strong option for, well, you know, any aggressive opener you would like to play, because the amplifying cores kind of allow your hounds to instantly one-shot crawlers. Note that he does make a slight mistake, in my opinion, by putting the amp cores on the balls instead. I don't know if that's because I was Elite Spec and he's maybe expecting level 2 crawlers, but I did start with level 1 crawlers, which would have gotten one shot if he put all of the amp cores onto his hounds. Now, usually you would think, oh, that is, you know, one of the best hound openers you can get, but Elite is even better because I get access to level 2 hounds and I don't have to worry about the breakpoints whatsoever because, well, I have the level 2 advantage. And here I decided to go for 2 hounds paired with my sledgehammers. Now you might say, but Rooster, usually you say, you know, you should have chaff, clear, and DPS. And now you're kind of heavily loaded on the chaff clear aspect with Sledgehammer Hound plus chaff, and there's no real DPS. And that's kind of true, but sledgehammers are somewhere in between, and hounds, especially at level 2, are really scary. A lot of level 2 chaff clear units, level 2 Arclight, for instance, level 2 Mustang, become kind of DPS in a way, and especially this early on, it just felt like the correct thing to do. I can't rely on sledgehammers alone to chaff clear, that doesn't work, so I need to add either Arclight or Hound, and I decided to go for Hound because A, I think it's really good into things like steel balls, same reason sledgehammers are good into them, just takes a while to get through the entire pack, and B, I'm quite confident I can win a mirror matchup here against enemy Hounds, because you know, I will buy them in at a higher level than he will. Round number 2 here, we get mass-produced Phoenix, which is a often must-pick card in any aggressive defensive matchup, because, well, buying 100-cost Phoenixes is simply insane. Phoenixes have been very good for a long time. They got buffed not too long ago, so yeah, they're a staple, as they have always been, and mass-produced Phoenix is certainly an exceptionally powerful card, and of course it gets picked up here immediately. Now, I have a little bit of a think about what I want to do. I decide, well, you know, it's good on Elite as well. I'm only going to be able to buy 1 Phoenix, which is a little bit awkward because I was expecting him to go triple Phoenix. 2 on this side, 1 over here. I was expecting this Phoenix because, you know, why not poke and prod at the tower if you can? You just should be doing that when it's this exposed. The annoying bit here is that I don't have a Fang unlocked. I just couldn't because I had to unlock Phoenix. So it's going to be hard for me to defend this. I decided to just buy a Crawler and say, well, if he only throws a Phoenix at my tower, at least the Crawler will be able to distract. It won't be able to kill it, but at the very least it'll prevent my tower from getting immediately debuffed. That was the idea here, so that's why we do this. And yeah, we have 1 Phoenix here on the right to cover the flank and to help with the main army. Opponent decides to sell their steel balls and perhaps moved, I think, one of the amp cores onto their hounds, which does help a lot, as they can now one-shot my level 1 crawlers. You can see over here that we do manage to distract the Phoenixes, at least for a while. Eventually, though, the small turret does take care of them, and the Phoenixes will get the tower debuff. Thankfully, I have managed to kill most of the enemy board, and I should be able here to get rid of at least a few Phoenixes before, well, my Phoenixes will get taken down. It's not going to be a round win, but all things considered, I think I'm pretty happy here. Mass-produced Phoenix is good for me in the long run, but in the short term, it was going to be hard for me to match whatever my opponent could build. And, well, we do a pretty decent job at mitigating the damage taken here, as it's only 1 Phoenix surviving. Round number 3, and now I'm starting to look for, you know, more chaff. More chaff clear, especially the hounds, which is going to be important in any mirror. What matters is levels, how many of the mirrored unit do you have, and how many techs do you currently have on them. Being ahead in all 3 will typically mean that you tend to win the mirror, and so it's very important to get those deployments out whenever you can. Opponent here decides to go for the Wraith. And I thought to myself, well, I'm already chaff clearing, so do I really need Fire Badger? I don't think so. I could pick the Wraith, but I was quite happy to just play Hounds in this case. Scorpion is fine. I probably should have picked it to try and deal with the Steel Ball, but I saw that one of them was being sold, and I don't think you should build Scorpions into just Hounds. That's too expensive, and it takes too long to take out the Hounds. So I decided to just pick up the Marksman, which looks a bit weird, and typically it's not something I would recommend, where you go into both Phoenix and Marksman. But here it's honestly kind of fine. Like, Wraith is offered, so at least you have that. And importantly, I get deployments, which is kind of something I'm missing here. I want more Phoenixes, but if I buy more Phoenixes, I can't buy more Hounds. Or more Chaff, and I need all of those things. So I say to myself, well, I can just substitute the Phoenixes for Marksman from the drop, and then I have more money available to actually get deployments here. So this way, I get, 3 DPS units in one round, and I still get to buy another Hound on the left and give them range. And here you can see, right, that both of us are kind of in this race to get our Hounds ahead. He also does the same thing. He buys more Hounds, picks up the Wraith and sells it, and uses the money to get range on his Hounds as well. So currently we are basically in the same spot. He has one more Hound, we both have range, but I have 3 levels that he doesn't have. So in theory, I am ahead in this case. DPS wise, I would say it's somewhat similar. He has 3 Phoenixes, I have 2, and I have 2 Marksmen. So it's very, very even right now, and you can kind of see that in the result. Both boards almost erase each other, and it's near a draw, but I do manage to inch out a win, as my left side board was a bit stronger, and I got the debuff at a good time. So my Marksmen here do clean up, and I'm pretty happy about what I went for. Would it have been okay to buy the Scorpion there? Yes, I think it would have been. You could have parked it on the right to try and deal with the Steel Ball in case it was not going to be sold. But I think the Marksman here is a bit more flexible, right? I don't have to worry too much about getting attacked from different angles. Everything is somewhat covered. And it frees up, again, those deployments, which are going to be very important. Round number 4, Extended Range Phantom Ray. Fun card. I always kind of have a look at it when it shows up, but we are already way too invested in 2 different DPS units, and frankly, I don't need more DPS. The only thing I need now is to get ahead in the Hound mirror, right? That is what matters most. If I can secure the win in, the Hound versus Hound matchup, I should be golden. And I can use all of my money right now to make that happen because DPS is covered. Tanks, I think, are honestly kind of fine. I have 2 Sledgehammers. I have an okay amount of chaff. I have 4 packs of crawlers. I would like maybe a 5th, but, right now this is acceptable. And really, I just want to buy more Hounds. And that's typically what's going to happen in these types of games. It's exceptionally simple, right? You don't have to overcomplicate things here. Hound is a really, really good unit when it has levels, and it has numbers, and it has all of the text that you might want. And so that's exactly what I do. I just buy triple Hound here, and I say to myself, well, I'm not too far off being able to just buy another tech. And again, the thing that matters is having more deployments, having more levels, having more techs. So I sell my Magnetic Barricade for 50, and that gives me 400 resources to buy Chamber Compression as my second tech. Now, the reason I picked this is because it was affordable. I would like Mech Rage as well. If I could afford Mech Rage, I probably would have bought that first. But because I could afford Chamber Compression, I thought to myself, I don't mind going for that. The damage is going to be nice. It's going to help out a ton. And I mean, just look at what happens, right? All of a sudden, you just completely overthrow this matchup because I have more Hounds, more levels, more techs. And now my opponent is in a pickle. Now you have a problem if you're, playing from the opposite side. Because now you have to catch up, or pivot, but he's already invested into Hounds, so pivoting I don't think is really an option. There is a Tarantula offered here, so you could go for that, but I think it's just too much of a loss, really, if you try and somehow deviate from the Hound plan. So instead he goes for Tarantula and sells it. I was a little bit afraid of Sandworm. I thought, ooh, maybe he's going to throw, some big units kind of in the way and buy himself some time. That way his Hounds might be able to get kills and get levels and that he can catch up. That was kind of my idea. So, yeah. The Sandworm I was most worried about. I didn't really care about Raiden. I have Marksman on the board already. Tarantula, kind of the same thing. I didn't expect him to go for that because he already had Hounds. And either way, the Sabertooth here seems like a safe option against either Tarantula or the Worm. And so that's what I go for. I can always sell it as well if for some reason there is no Worm. And indeed there isn't. My opponent sold and immediately goes for Hacker. I will say though, Hacker is not that good into Hound. The targets are a little bit too small for the Hacker to really get good value unless you somehow run multiple control. But I wouldn't recommend that tech because I think it's really bad. You just lose so much range, and it also reduces the amount of hacking power by a lot, so it'll be tough to hack anything larger than a Hound or a level 1 Sledgehammer. But yeah, he goes for Hacker. It is a good pairing with Hound, so I guess there's that. And he goes for triple Hacker here. Elite recruited with range, so a big turn, but that's what the sell of the unit drop allows for. And meanwhile, I have that Sabertooth in there. Now, it's not doing a lot. It's just there to tank at this point. Once I saw the Hackers, I was like, well, all right. You know, there is no Worm. That's the only thing I was really worried about. So now I can just sell my Saber and gain the cash next round, make a different play. And you look at the board here, the Hackers don't even really work, right? That's what I said. The Hounds are just, they're so tricky to deal with. And it's why they're currently so popular in high MMR. Once you get to these late game stages with Hounds everywhere, there's just frankly not a lot of units in the game that can deal with them. Like Wraith would be one option. Sometimes you can go for Vulcan, but if you don't get them offered here, it's really awkward to play. Additional deployment slot shows up on round number 6. My opponent decides to pick it. Electromagnetic Impact is pretty interesting here. You could go Rhino Assault. There are some openings in my enemy's backline. He decides to go for the additional deployment to get more stuff on the board. And, you know, you can see he's trying to catch up. He's really trying to catch up. More Hounds, more Hounds, more Hounds. Again, trying to match what I put down. Because I bought even more Hounds, and now we're up to a grand total of 7. Level 2 Hounds, double teched, and I'm trying to work my way into triple tech even. However, before we do that, I decide to counter my opponent's Hackers with my own Hackers. And yes, you can do this, especially when you're elite. It's the nice thing about elite sometimes. You can just mirror your opponent and say, I'm going to have easier access to levels here. So, you know, that kind of puts me up one advantage, I guess, in this mirror. Because I don't have to worry about having more levels than you, because typically I simply will have them by default. If you are losing, you will be feeding a lot of experience, so it can kind of work against you, but as long as you're making the correct plays, I think Elite should be favored in mirrors, especially when they are mirrors with smaller units, because those are more easily accessible. Now, I go for Barrier here, and I don't go for range. I don't need range. I'm not playing the Hackers to really hack anything. I'm just kind of playing them to annoy my opponents. He doesn't have the best anti-shield damage. He has some blue Phoenixes, which I guess are decent, but I kind of want the Hackers to get stuck. And if he does happen to hack something, I can just hack it back. And if we have a stalemate, well, then we just go back to which board was stronger, and that is mine, right? I've got level 3 Hounds in the middle, fighting against level 1 Hounds. And I have double tech on top of that as well. I will say, though, he's doing an okay job of kind of stalling here. It takes a while, right, to retarget every single time one of the Hounds gets taken over. And he does have the range advantage here, so he will actually start taking over some of my stuff. But I get the debuff on the left, where my army is stronger. And we should just be able to get a victory here. I'll speed things up a little. Marksman gonna take down the shield. Almost take down my own tower. But I do manage to get the round win. And now we head into round 7 with what is really just a very powerful board, right? The one thing I might be lacking is a bit of DPS, but with high-level Hackers and the Phoenixes, the Marksmen, the Chamber Compression Hounds even, which are honestly providing a lot of damage as well, I'm not too worried about anything. We get Ion Blast offered, which is a must-pick at this stage of the game. It is just such a powerful tech. And yep, I'm keeping it simple. I say to myself, I see no reason why I should be afraid of anything here, so I am simply going to buy more Hounds. And then I'm going to triple tech them. There we go. Mech Rage. It has been purchased. My round is over. I don't really need to do much here. And that is, you know, I don't like playing mirrors for this specific reason usually, because once you fall behind, it's very hard to make a comeback, and it's very straightforward to play this when you're ahead. But, you know, if I'm playing Elite, it is one of the things that can make Elites very good. So, yeah, I just go for what's good here, and I grab the Ion Beam. My opponent doesn't go for it, which I was rather surprised about. I think it is a must pick, and he goes for Mustangs, which I found somewhat intriguing. Now, Mustangs do pair well with the hackers, and I guess he was somewhat vulnerable to anti-air here, or air units rather, but I didn't buy any, and yeah, he gets completely overwhelmed on the spell turn, and that will just be game. 7 rounds is all it took. Now, this quick game, I mostly wanted to show it to you guys to, 1, showcase what can be strong about Elite Specialist, and 2, to kind of showcase, right, what matters in these type of mirrors. What did I do? I made sure that I had more hounds. I made sure that I teched my hounds really early, round 3, right? My opponent realized that too, but he had the level disadvantage because his specialist doesn't buy level 2 hounds. And then immediately the turn after, I teched my hounds again, because I'm not in any pressure really to fix any of my other problems. In fact, I have no other problems. I have chaff, I have DPS, and I have my hounds. And the hounds are the main thing that are defining this game. So all I need to do is make sure that these guys are ahead. And it's not that different from most other games. Oftentimes you will just be making sure that in the first, 5 or 6 rounds, you're making sure your chaff clear is adequate and you're buying chaff. And your DPS can kind of follow. You can often make do with, 2, 3 kind of mediocre-ish unteched DPS units. But if you set up your chaff clear correctly, you can then use the unit drops to kind of add to your DPS. Now, with that being said, what should my opponent have done in the final round? I'm not exactly sure if they could have won or not, but maybe they could have survived. I think taking the Ion Blast is going to be a big part of it, for one. Let's use that on the left side here, and hopefully I can draw it somewhat adequately. What we could do is, well, first of all, loan temp speed. Try and move our units back, because I think that this should be possible. And, okay, there is jump drive as well on the Phoenixes. I think that might not be a bad thing to click. They're mass-produced. We would have to buy some alternative anti-air after, or I guess range these. That's also fine. Elite Spec doesn't really have access to Fortress AA. It's a bit too expensive. But at least this way we can pressure the right side where we have our kind of anti-bubble or bubble breaking damage stacked. On the left we have the Ion Beam to take care of that. We run away all of our units. And I think I would just grab Mech Rage here, frankly, to make sure that we have, let's move this a little bit, some type of, chance in this fight. I'm going to put another hacker down as well. It's good to buy more hackers if you've already teched into bubble and range. Very expensive. And what else? Not really too sure. I guess we could level this hound, although it's likely just going to end up dying. Temp speed is another option. I think I'm happy with this. Try and save our hackers by moving away. I'm expecting the Ion Beam to be over here. I think that's a read you can certainly make, because that's where the strong hackers are. And yeah, try and stack on the right side. Hope here that you can maybe make something happen. Let's see. Hopefully my Ion Beam is somewhat okay. It does at least hit the hacker, so that's good. Maybe it could have been angled better. Although, well, the hacker now actually moving in. Seems like I have angled it pretty nicely. And I have managed to also avoid, importantly, most of the enemy units. Now, it looks like I will still end up losing because the right side can't really do much and the hounds are a lot weaker. But perhaps I've managed to survive. I'm going to say we had like 1,500 hit points or something. I think we have managed to live here by picking up this spell, but maybe we're delaying the inevitable. I would probably argue that we are, but yeah, that would have at least survived if we go back to the replay. 1,100 damage. Yeah, we would have been there to fight for round 8, maybe hope for another spell, but The problem is when you're playing a mirror, like spells don't really tend to help you that much because the boards are the same. So they tend to be weak to the same type of stuff. And yeah, that would have been, I guess, the problem of having a somewhat of a lack of anti-air. But this shows you why, right? If you get into a mirror and you fall behind, you'll be in a tough spot. So that's why usually I try to avoid them. But if I see that I have a very easy way of proving that I am in a better spot than my opponent, I will simply go for the mirror, because I have no reason to believe here that I would be weaker. I have higher level hounds, and I know how to play this, right? Tech early, grab those advantages where you can. I will say my opponent grabbed attack enhancement first, or the second attack enhancement, important thing as well, right? Aside from techs and levels and grabbing more of the same unit, it can be also very influential to grab those secondary enhancements from the tower, and he did that before me, but it just wasn't enough here to make up for the level difference. So with that being said, I hope that you guys liked this video. If you did, please leave a comment down below of whether you thought this was you know, some good information, something you perhaps hadn't heard before. Let me know. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing, and if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care guys, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.